Hello everyone, my name is Victor. Welcome to a tutorial on Python for beginners. Some of the concepts that I will be using might be considered intermediate, but hopefully I can explain them well enough that even if you're just getting into programming, you can understand them. So I will be implementing a calculator similar to the calculator app on the iPhone. I will begin with the simpler version, the one that you have when you're on portrait mode. It just has the numbers in basic, addition, multiplication, division. And I will be using Eclipse as my IDE, or integrated development environment. It's just because that's what I've been using since I first started learning Python. Other people might use Sublime Text or PyCharm or just simply idle, which comes with Python. But again, Eclipse is what I'm most comfortable with, so that's what I'll be using. So I've created a project called Calculator, and I'll be using a design pattern called Model View Controller, or MVC for short. Essentially, in Model View Controller, the view is what the user sees. The controller controls the behavior of the view, and then the model is where most of your logic would go. So in this example, the view would be, the buttons that you see. The controller would control the behavior of the buttons, like when you click on a button, what happens in the background. And then the model would actually do the actual calculations and return them back to the view so they can be displayed through the controller. So let's get started. So like I said, I'll be doing model view controller, so I'm going to create 3 modules. So I'll create the first one will be the model. And I just launched Eclipse for the first time in a while, so it's going through all the settings. And then I'm going to want to create a class. So one of the reasons I like a class is because it does a lot of the simple things for you. So I'm going to create a class for my model module, and it just creates basically the starting template of how you would create a class in Python. So I'm going to change my class to model, and in the current version of Python you don't need to inherit from object, you can just leave it like this. So that'll be my model class, and then I'm going to want a view class, which I'll create in a view module. And again, I'll do a class. So I'll change my class to view and take this out. You can leave it if you want. I just think this is cleaner. And then finally, we want a module for the controller. And unlike Java, in Python you can actually have multiple classes in one module. I just prefer to keep my modules shorter, so that's why I'm using one module for each class. And then this is going to be the main starting point of the of our calculator app. So I'm going to want this main method, which you'll see in a minute. This will give me this. Essentially, when we run this module either through the command line or through this IDE, and with the statement, it'll execute the code that's in this block here. So, but I'm also going to want a class for my controller. So I'll create a class controller, I'll make an initialize method. So now we have 3 modules with 1 class each, one for the model, one for the view, and one for the controller. I'll make this a little bit bigger, make sure you can see it. So just to kind of test what we have so far, I'm going to put a simple print statement in the if name equals main block. So I'll just say print hello world, and I'll run this. So if you look over here on the console, it printed hello world. So now that we have that, like I said, the controller is going to be the main starting point of our calculator app. So I'll make a variable calculator, and I'll initialize an instance of the controller. And then in my controller class, I'm going to make a method called main, which I can call using the calculator instance that we just created. And then just to test it out, I'll put a simple print statement in here as well. So I'll just say in main of controller. So down here, now that controller has a method, I can call the main method on the calculator name that we bound to it. So now if we run this, it should print in main of controller because we created an instance of controller and then we called the main method, which printed this statement. So in model view controller, the controller will be aware of both the model and the view. So we're going to want to import both the model and view. So we'll say from model, import model, because remember the name of the module is named model, and then we created a class called model. I'll make this bigger as well, and the view as well. So we've imported model. We'll do the same thing for view. So now we have access to both of those classes, model and view. And like I said, the controller is going to be aware of both of them. So I'll just create instance variables and bind those objects to those variables in the initialize method of the control class. So I'll say self.model equals model, and that's just going to be an instance of the model class. And I'll do the same thing for view. And the model isn't aware of either the controller or the view, but the view knows about the controller. So we're actually going to want to pass the controller object to the view. So we'll go to our view class, and this was created automatically. This params argument was created automatically. I'm just going to change this to controller. So when we initialize an instance of the view class, it's going to require that we pass this variable here, the controller. And then once it's initialized, we'll bind it to an attribute of the view class.